You hear the music, you know what time it is. I am KODX Factor, and I am here live in the studio of the Game Night Lounge, recording for you live another episode of The Jump Off. This is episode number 20. We have hit the milestone 20 mark for our podcast, and I want to thank all of you guys for coming along for the ride, and all of our newest listeners and members. I want to say just thank you so much for everything. The reception we got from our last video was actually really great as well, especially with all the Hurricane Florence news and support coming left and right to all the victims that have supported to the relief efforts of Hurricane Florence here in the North Carolina area. So for all of you that contributed to that, we want to say thank you so very much. It is heartwarming, kind of brings us back to the to our feelings that humanity is a thing. It is not something in the past, even though, you know, the news and other outlets may shed a different type of light on human interactions with each other, and that humanity is still prevalent even today, and it does have a place, and it is not highlighted enough. I'll put it that way. You know, there are a lot of things that people do that are good in outreach for each other, and one of those we're going to talk about actually today that just doesn't seem to go noted as heavy as the other half or the other side. So a lot of bad tends to get publicized often. A lot of things that people do in the wrong get publicized very often. And not enough times things get publicized that are in the good or good for humanity or people outreaching or people doing things that you would expect another human being to do or feel. Doesn't get highlighted enough. And so I highlight them all as often as I possibly can, that I hear about them. You know, so to all of you that have contributed to the relief efforts here for the North Carolina and South Carolina areas for Hurricane Florence, we greatly appreciate it, and just know from the bottom of our hearts we are extremely grateful for that, and thank you so very much. And to anybody that's reached out comment wise and has said prayers in their local churches for the areas that were affected, we greatly appreciate it. Nothing is more heartwarming than that. But to continue on with our gaming news and our gaming stuff going on, especially with the fall season officially coming here next week, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about it last week. I'm going to mention it again because I'm getting really excited. Is our Halloween events. Our Halloween Let's Plays are going to start in October, the first week of October. And I can't wait, because October is a week away. We are a week away from October. October is literally 1 week away, which is kind of scary in and of itself, because it's like, where did the rest of the year go? It just seems like the year had kind of blown by. You know, it just seems like just recently we were starting spring and summer, and now all of a sudden we're in the fall. And Christmas is 3 months away? I mean, seriously. Where did the time go? I don't know. It's been really crazy and really fast paced this year. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of things that were going on this year. We were doing an awful lot of things here with the channel and the websites, trying to get things going and trying to up our user base and our subscription levels. And if all I can say is, if you like the content that you're hearing or that you're seeing, please comment, like, subscribe, because it greatly helps us out and helps us know what areas are doing well and what areas are not doing so well. And, thankfully the podcast, the one that you're listening to right now, has done actually pretty well in the realm of listener base. And some people may not see that all the time, especially if you look at like just sheer numbers of people that watch it on YouTube, because we don't hold the biggest space on YouTube when it comes to our podcast. Our space is mainly in the sense of iTunes and Google Play, TuneIn. Those are the areas that we tend to get most of our traffic from. So those would be numbers that you really don't see, especially when it comes to, because I've had somebody comment like, you know what, I don't see very many views on your podcast on YouTube. Yeah, we don't really do a lot in the way of that on YouTube. We just don't. A lot of our listener base comes from those iTunes stores and those Google Play stores, the ones that subscribe to the RSS feed on there and they listen to us on their mobile device. Those are the ones that we really get a lot of listener base through. And big thank you to the iTunes and the Google Play and TuneIn and all the other podcast websites that have us listed. We greatly appreciate the support. We couldn't do what we do or continue to do what we do without the user support there. But just jumping into our couple of topics that we're going to cover today, I wanted to talk about two things, actually. The first thing I'm going to talk about is I don't know if Sony had listened to our podcast or what may have happened, but it seems like every time I mention something on a podcast or I voice an opinion and then tag them in it on like social media somewhere, that eventually at some point things change. I look at the Amazon and my Amazon arguments that I possessed earlier, and how that changed and affected, and then stuff that we get on like when it comes to like the pre-order stuff that you get from Amazon, and the games that for some reason we were not able to get on Amazon. We are now able to, so I don't know if they're listening to the podcast or somebody put Sony in or Sony listened to all the complaints. And basically what I'm getting at, because some of y'all are probably like, what in the world are you getting at? What I'm getting at is Sony has finally opened up and is allowing cross-platform play across the PlayStation 4 and other consoles. Now, this is not universal for all games. When it comes to gaming things, like anything in the gaming industry, you have to take baby steps. So what Sony is doing right here is they're testing the waters. They're doing baby steps. And they are allowing one of the biggest games out today is Fortnite. And they have announced that they are going to allow cross-platform play across the PlayStation 4, the Android, iOS devices, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and Windows PC and Mac. So they're allowing you to play Fortnite against other players on other consoles. Before, Sony was not hearing it. They were not having anything to do with it. They were like, we're just not doing it. It doesn't fit within our business model. But they have since changed their tune. And all the backlash that they were getting and even opinions that people were voicing on like public forums, like podcasts and stuff like that, much like we did, they have decided to finally open it up. And it's in beta form right now. And it starts today because Season 6, we're recording this episode on Wednesday, the 26th of September. The Season 6 starts tomorrow. So they wanted to have this kind of in place and ready to go by the Season 6 kickoff event. So the first step that they're doing is it's going to be an open beta beginning today, and it will allow cross-platform gameplay, progression, and commerce, which, if you're confused by that, which means anything you purchase, which now you can link your Epic accounts across all your platforms. So whatever you purchase on a PlayStation, you can access on all your other devices if you're using the same account. Before, it was not allowed to do that. You couldn't link an account with your other consoles and the Sony console. You had to have two separate accounts. So whatever you bought on the PlayStation, as far as skin-wise or item-wise, is only good on the PlayStation. So now what they've done is they've opened it up to where everything is cross-platform. So now you can take your account and play it on other consoles. Now, the bad thing about this because I hate to be nitpicky. I'm actually thrilled and glad that Sony has decided to allow cross-platform play, because it means that they're listening to their fan base. It means they're listening to the complaints and the bad rap that they're getting, especially when you got other manufacturers and other consoles that are allowing this to happen. But I want to congratulate them. I want to say thank you, because they're finally getting the message and they're allowing their things to be kind of cross-platform integrated. And if you look at the announcement that has taken place, especially if you look at Twitter, all the other manufacturers are like applauding them. They're saying thank you. And this is coming from Microsoft, Nintendo, all the other different avenues. They're saying thank you, because they realize this is something that it's good for the industry. It's not, just good for just one particular console. It's good for the industry. But the one thing I do see a problem with is, now that Fortnite has become so big and so popular, people have already accounts created on those platforms. So they would essentially, so anything that you bought on your PlayStation 4 account, like let's say you're one of the gamers. And I'm gonna take my son for example. Let's say you're one of the gamers that had created a PlayStation 4 Fortnite account on your PlayStation. And then you had to create a whole new one on your Xbox or Nintendo Switch or whatever, and then have all those linked. And you kind of got some items exclusively on your PlayStation account that you weren't able to get on the other ones. And now you can't link them like that, because you'd have to pretty much start over from scratch. Well, not necessarily start over from scratch, but you'd have to sign up another Fortnite account and then link that to your core account that's linked to all your other consoles. So that way you can share your items across your other consoles. So, I mean, that's really the bad thing I see about it, especially if you're one of the early progressors on and you got a couple of exclusive items that you aren't able to get anywhere else except for just your PlayStation console. But all in all, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not one of those groundbreaking deals. The fact that this is happening is, in and of itself, is a great idea, a great thing for gaming. A great thing for Sony, because that means that you're actually paying attention to listen to what your fans think and what their opinions are, as opposed to being just kind of gung-ho about everything, saying, no, we don't really care. We're leading this space anyway, so why should we care about it? You're kind of switching your attitudes up, and this is what we talked about a number of episodes ago in regards to your attitude towards the cross-platform play. Then now you're switching it up a little bit. And me personally, I'm happy. I'm glad. And I'm sure gamers out there as a whole are happy and they're glad, because now they can play Fortnite against their friends. If you had a friend that played Fortnite on the PlayStation 4 and they don't have any other consoles or any other device to play Fortnite on against you with, they can now play with you or against you. I can now play on my PlayStation with my son who has it on the Nintendo Switch, and he's not switching up his Switch account because he's got so many items he bought on his Switch account that he's not going to switch that up. So I can actually play with him now, and actually kind of look forward to it, because I want to test it out this weekend. But I did want to say just a big congratulations and thank you so much to Sony for allowing gamers to do this. I think it's taking a big step forward. It's a big step that you guys have listened to your fans and said, okay, you know what, we may need to make a change here. I understand that it's a big policy change, and we commend you guys for taking that step forward to do that. I think that's really, really big for gaming, and I think it's going to turn out really, really well. So congrats, Sony, for doing that and allowing that to happen. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is news that kind of hit late last week, more so, it was really talked about more so on the weekends, but more of a sad news than anything else. If any of you guys out there played a lot of TellTale Games, Now, TellTale is a company that made video games more on the story space. They did episodic games where it created episodic episodes where you played through, and they had different licenses for different games. Their most famous one and most notable one is going to be The Walking Dead. They did Season 1 of The Walking Dead. They did Season 2. They did the Michonne story set, which we really want to talk about because that wasn't really all that great. And then they did the last season of The Walking Dead, which was Frontier. Something Frontier. I had to double check because I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was New Frontier, I think it was the name of it. And then they announced that this newest season of The Walking Dead was going to be their final one. They were also behind games like The Wolf Among Us. They had recently announced The Wolf Among Us 2. They also were doing the Minecraft story. They did Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy. They're behind those story-based, cel-shaded games, and they did Batman as well. We even have Let's Play videos of the Batman, the first and second seasons of Batman. And I will say this: I was actually a huge fan of TellTale. I love their games. I won't say I loved all of their games because I was okay with Guardians of the Galaxy. Game of Thrones was okay. It wasn't great. It was okay. The Walking Dead Season 1, Season 2, fantastic. The Michonne one, I could have done without that one. The New Frontier was actually pretty good, and I was actually looking forward to the final season of The Walking Dead. The Minecraft one, okay. It was all right. I didn't really get into it all that much, but The Wolf Among Us I thought was fantastic. I was actually really looking forward to Season 2. And then the Batman series, which the Batman Season 1, Season 2, I was actually a big fan of that as well. I actually really enjoyed them. And I kind of liked where they went. Now, TellTale Games has done pretty much a mass studio closure. Last Friday, they decided to close down the studio, and they had roughly about 250 employees. Some say they had about 275. And they laid off about 90% of those employees. So if the estimates are to be true, if they had 275 employees, means they fired 250 of those employees because they retained 25 employees to work on a obligation to a investor or a partner. And we can only assume, because they haven't announced it officially, that investor was Netflix, because they had partnered with Netflix to develop a Minecraft story show or movie. And to fulfill that obligation, they held on to roughly about 25 employees to work and finish that project. But everybody else has been terminated from TellTale. And terminated in a way that they got no severance. There was really no warning because it was kind of out of left field. It threw a lot of the employees for shock. They weren't prepared for it. They had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, financial-wise. And apparently what had happened was that one of their investors that they were counting on, and the rumor is that it was Lionsgate, did not come through or pulled out of a deal that would have them give money to the studio for development of projects. So one of their investors that they were counting on had pulled away. And because of that, they had to pull the plug on the studio. Which means all of their announced projects, such as The Wolf Among Us 2, all Batman's, Game of Thrones, the Guardians of the Galaxies, all those series have been canceled. It was up in the air at the point because they were already into episode 2 of The Walking Dead, whether The Walking Dead would have a conclusion, whether it would finish. But unfortunately, due to the closure, that the episode 2, which just recently launched, is the final one. We will not get a conclusion to that. And then just recently, as of just a couple of days ago, TellTale has announced that they said that they had a handful of investors come forward to fund the conclusion of The Walking Dead. You know, they want a conclusion. They want the final 2 episodes of The Walking Dead. Now, look, I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead. I would love to see a conclusion to this. I would love to see what happens at the very end and just have closure from that game, because it was one of my favorite franchises, or at least one of my favorite series from that studio. But here's the problem. You fired over 225 to 250 people from your studio because of the financial difficulties. But now you're going to take an investment from other people that are willing to put money forth and go to finish a product that's going to benefit who? You? Why not take that investment money, or take that money and use it to pay your employees that you had to let go their severances? You've got 225 to 250 people. It's not just individuals. We're talking about families here. And you gave them no kind of inclination that this studio was closing, or that you were having such financial difficulties that you couldn't get this ship righted just in time. I said righted, I don't even think that's a word. But you couldn't get the ship just balanced right. And then you had to lay all those employees off. Now you're talking about you got money coming in from people to help kind of get this game finished. At this point, who cares about the game? You need to start looking at now your employees that you had to let go. These aren't just people, these are families, these are people with kids, these are people that, that their families were on the line with these employees of yours. You have to pay them their severances. You have to pay them for what your mistake was. Look, I understand you're in a position now that where you probably can't pay your severance. How you put your company in a position to where you couldn't do that to begin with is beyond me. I mean, somebody wasn't managing things properly. And the sad thing is, I love TellTale. I love their employees, the games that they make. I love that studio. But how you mismanage a company to the point that you can't do this or manage something, cut back on projects, something to kind of help keep your studio afloat so you don't get to a point that you just got to last week. Now you got 225 to 250 people that are without jobs, without severance, and left with a bad taste in their mouth. Not just for your studio, but for the gaming industry as a whole. And that's scary in and of itself. Now look, all of us that are part of the gaming industry know that the industry is brutal. If you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it, it will eat you and spit you back out. And a lot of people know this, especially if you're with a studio that is on rocky grounds as it is anyway. And none of us really knew that TellTale was in a position like that. They never had inclinations that they were even in trouble like that. They just kind of all of a sudden came out of left field with this mass studio closure. The industry is shaky. The job security in the video game industry is hard. You have to be in a perfect position to make sure you have job security. Because studios for games close left and right. And it's not because their games just aren't selling. I mean, that's a big part of it. You got to create something that sells. But some of the problem is you got some developers and some companies that are centric on their minds are going in 10 different directions at one time. Like they want to start and work on 2, 3, 4 projects at a time. Especially when you're a small studio, you've got to take baby steps. You got to start with one project Everybody work on that one project, and then let's venture on from there. Let's make the best possible project we possibly can, and then go from there. Some of the smaller studios have that. They do that right now. PUBG, as small as that studio was to begin with, they had one focus, and that was PUBG. You know, you got the Minecraft people. They had one focus. That was Minecraft. They still, to this day, only have one focus, and that's Minecraft. And how many billions of dollars does Minecraft generate? They got bought by Microsoft. You gotta have a clear vision. You gotta have one route, and you gotta go that one route. You can't have a funnel vision. Funnel vision means that you're spanning out. You're looking into different avenues. Say, I want to work on this, I want to do this, and I want to do this. Like, look, especially if you're just getting off the ground, you don't have the basis to work on multiple projects. You got to have one vision, and you got to go that one direction until it's perfected the way you want it to be perfected, and then sold. Make it perfect. Sony Santa Monica. They've been working on God of War for years. You don't see them venturing off to multiple 3, 4 projects working at one time, do you? They work on one game, then whatever they're done with, they move on to the next one. That's the way those studios work. And then they get bigger from there, and they get bigger from there. The Coalition, working on Gears, that's their focus, Gears. That's their franchise. Once they solidify themselves and are on great footing, and look, you got the backing of Microsoft, so you're going to be on great footing as it is anyway. Then you can venture on to other projects and start looking at other things to do. But perfect what you're working on first. TellTale had that in droves, especially when they got the license for The Walking Dead. When they started developing The Walking Dead game, and they put out season 1 of The Walking Dead, man, fans went nuts. And people cannot tell me, because I've read comments on Twitter from some ex-employees at TellTale, they're like, look, it's a business. We're not going to stay afloat if people don't buy our games. You're 100% right. 100% right. But here's where it kind of falters a little bit. You gotta deliver on your product and keep it going. Here's what TellTale did. They got the license for The Walking Dead. They developed season 1 of The Walking Dead. It did extremely well. Sold well, got critical acclaim. I think it even won some game awards, especially when it came to storytelling. That was it. I mean, it was like, okay, with The Walking Dead, it's doing fantastic. Now, what can we do? This is what we got to do for season 2. Start developing season 2. TellTale, what they did is they started getting licenses. Okay, let's license Game of Thrones. We can do the same thing we did with Walking Dead with Game of Thrones. Oh, we can do it with Guardians of the Galaxy. How about that one? We can do that one as well. Oh, wait, there's Batman. Let's try to develop one for Batman as well. We could do that. And then Wolf Among Us. And look, and Wolf Among Us was great. I love Wolf Among Us. I think the studio would have been set had they just focused on The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us. You have those 2 IPs and offset them in different years. Have Wolf Among Us 1 year, Walking Dead the next. Wolf Among Us the following year, Walking Dead the next. Then branch out. They had way too many projects going at one time that they were losing money because they were trying to fund all these different products. Plus, you have these license fees that you're not doing anything with. Lord knows, I can only imagine what the fee was for Game of Thrones. And then you put out one game for Game of Thrones, and it didn't even do that well. So why even try to work on a season 2? Why try to even go as ambitious as that with that game anyway? Why not just solidify yourself with Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead? Those have been 2 avenues that I would have ventured down and perfected. Solidify your sales on them. Maximize your opportunities on both. Once you do that, you would have plenty of cash flow to work on other projects. But take on one license at a time. The Walking Dead, I'm sure, was a huge license to get to begin with. And then you had to work with Robert Kirkman and all that to kind of make sure that the story kind of flowed with each other or worked within his timeline. But you got to work on these licenses because the licensing fees will kill you because you're paying for them year over year. And Game of Thrones is how many years old? Guardians of the Galaxy was how many years old? The Walking Dead was one of your only licensed franchises that brought you so much money in of itself. And I'm sure you probably got a really, really good deal with the license for the Borderlands, Tales from Borderlands series. And that wasn't that bad. That was okay. But you still had to pay a license fee to Gearbox for that, unless you worked out something with Randy. But they will kill you, especially if you're overambitious. You got to stay within your lane. Don't try to be too overambitious about your projects and work yourself right into bankruptcy, which is essentially what happened here. And now you got employees at TellTale that are filing class action lawsuits against you for violating California state law for notifications of a mass closure. Now you're going to have to pay severance, bonuses, wages, everything for at least 6 months or 60 days. So 2 months. As well as their health insurance. This could have all been avoided had they been a little bit more careful. I think they got a little bit too ambitious. Because, I mean, honestly, 250 employees or 275 employees would have been a lot for 1 or 2 franchises. Game of Thrones, or not Game of Thrones, Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us. For both of those franchises. Now, for all the licenses and franchises that they did have, yeah, that's probably about right. You have all of them working on projects that are probably not even going to see the light. Well, now they're never going to see the light of day. And to TellTale that is actually seriously thinking about taking the investment money from people that want to see the conclusion of The Walking Dead, the final season. Look, I'm one of those that wants to see it too. But I would much rather, at this point right now, see those employees compensated for what happened to them unannounced. And I want to say a big ups to the gaming industry, because shortly after the TellTale closing or the announcement of the TellTale closing in stores, other companies showed up in droves. All the way from Ubisoft, EA, Microsoft, Sony Santa Monica, Epic, Bethesda, any studio you could think of had set up things for employees of TellTale to contact them because they have multiple job openings. And that's huge. You recognize a studio of the magnitude of TellTale Games closing, and then you went ahead and just said, look, we have these openings, contact us, we'll find something. Okay? They're willing to take you in as a developer because they realize the severity of the situation. It was unfair. It was very unfair. And a lot of these companies see that. Even Nintendo reached out. So, I mean, it's heartwarming to see that other studios and studio heads would do this. And Ubisoft actually took it a step further. They set up a lunch at I can't remember the name of the restaurant now, but it's in San Francisco. They set up a lunch, and they said any TellTale employee in the area that wishes to come out for lunch and talk with us, they would talk about their opportunities and what they have available, and sit down and talk to these people as developers and as people to find out what they can do to get them into a new position with Ubisoft. and lunch was on them. So Ubisoft paid for everything as well on top of that. That's huge. I don't care how much you hate a company. Like everybody knows, I hate Activision. I'm not the biggest fan of Activision at all. I don't like their practices. Ubisoft is another one that's kind of like hit and miss for me. Sometimes I'm like, what is Ubisoft thinking? And other times I'm like, okay, I get it, Ubisoft. I get it. EA's like that as well. There's times that I'm like, oh, I hate EA. And then there's other times like, okay, I get it. I'll defend you on this. Ubisoft stepped up in a big way and just said, okay, look, here's the date. Here's the time. We're going to meet here. We'll be here to talk with you about positions that we have opening up, and we will be willing to talk with you to kind of get you into a position that's best suited for you because of what happened here. And look, you're not just gaining some schlubs off the street that just graduated school and looking for their first entry job into the gaming industry. We're talking about seasoned veterans that have worked on some of the most prolific games out there, storytelling-wise. The cel-shaded graphics, and it's all about the storytelling. TellTale has always been about that. The surprises, the storytelling, everything. That's what TellTale is known for. And just know that the people you hire from that studio, that's what they're bringing to the table. There's a lot. You got a lot of talent there. So any of the studios that fill their positions with some of these ex-employees from TellTale, just know you're gaining a veteran and somebody who knows what they're doing. So our thoughts and prayers are first and foremost for all those affected that have lost their jobs, not just at TellTale Games, because Capcom Vancouver closed as well. So all of those employees that are affected at that studio, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope we know you're going to land on your feet. All of you guys are such talented individuals. We enjoyed all the games that you guys have created, and we look forward to all of your latest and newest endeavors. And to all the studios that opened up their Twitter and their DM handles, or their Twitter handles and all their DM messages, to allow these people to communicate with you to try to fill a position that they so desperately need. Just a big applause to you guys. I mean, it makes me feel happy that I'm a part of the industry that I am now. I've seen the development side of it. I've seen the development cycles of it. I've seen a lot of the ups, a lot of the downs. Look, the industry is hard. It's nothing concrete. There's nothing set in stone that says this is going to be around for our lifetime. Very few companies make it the long haul. If a company sets themselves in a perfect position to do so, just feel blessed that you're part of those individuals. TellTale was actually one of those companies I thought was one of those companies. It was just poorly managed. And I think a lot of the funds were mismanaged as well. And that falls at the studio head or whoever's running the studio or the board. But hopefully, wherever you guys land up, you guys are extremely happy with where you land. We know you will be. We know you're extremely talented, and we look forward to all your newest projects coming out. So that's going to do it for us this week. I want to say thank you so much for everybody that listened. I greatly appreciate it. Please make sure you contact us, you follow us, and you like us on our website at www.GameNightLounge.wordpress.com. You can find us on our YouTube channel. Our channel is The Game Night Lounge. You can find us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is The Game Night Lounge. You guessed it. You can follow our podcast on TuneIn, Podbean, Google Play, and the iOS iTunes Store, and all the other podcast avenues. You can also find us on Twitter. Our handle is The Game Night Lounge. My personal Twitter handle is KODXFactor. We are also on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/KODXFactor. So we thank you guys so much. All the guests that appear on this show and future shows are a part of the Game Night Lounge Media Network. I want to say thank you so much to all you guys. Thank you so much to the Game Night Lounge for allowing us to do this show. We are 20 episodes deep. Look forward to many, many more. I am KODXFactor. This is The Jump Off. And until next week, everybody, game on.